Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. We're here to talk Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I'm here with Hayden and Steven. We've all been playing the game. How we doing?
Pretty good. I can't believe this game is real and is here.
And good.
Yeah, right?
That's my thing. I, on our podcast, had said a few times I was growing increasingly worried about this game throughout the summer. And it turns out that was all crazy talk by me. Like, this is really fun. And we'll talk about it more, but I feel like one of the biggest concerns, the first person versus third person, is kind of a non-issue so far. For me, anyway. But we'll get to that. So we're going to talk about a few different things here in this video, and we're going to hit on, just the general vibe of the game, some of the gameplay, including puzzles, the world, atmosphere, and then we're going to hit on that really iconic opening to the game.
Yeah.
At the end,
really
because if you're just watching to get an idea of, like, should I play this or not, we don't want to openly spoil anything. And trust me, you're going to want to play through the opening, just experience it without us telling you the whole thing. So
for sure.
We'll leave that for the end. We got gameplay up on the screen here, so give you can reference what we're talking about against that. But let's start just with Indiana Jones vibe, and I think it's safe to say I'm probably the biggest Indiana Jones fan of the three of us.
I think you're the biggest Indiana Jones fan I have ever met.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I would put you up there.
So we have Indy here, little
Funko nice,
Pop
nice.
Indy. And over my shoulder here we have Indy with the boulder.
Oh yeah, is that your Lego or is that also a Funko?
That's Funko.
Okay, gotcha.
It's one of like the $30 Funko ones,
right. That comes like a little like set display. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. That's fun.
So yeah, kind of cool. I got my like premium or ultimate edition or whatever it's called. And when we record our trivia episode tomorrow, we're doing Indiana Jones trivia, so check back on the channel if you want to play that. I got the globe.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I'm telling you guys, like, it is a full-size freaking globe.
Nice. That's awesome.
I thought it was like going to be like a mini one.
And have the like secret compartment inside?
It does. Well, the top just comes like off of it. It's not that secret because the arm on it on the side has a hinge right in the middle of it, so it's not like that secret if you're paying attention. But whatever, it's fine. It's actually really cool. So I like it. It's got the Great Circle drawn on it.
Oh, sick! I was just gonna ask. That's great.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll show that tomorrow when we record the trivia video. But general vibe for the game, like Indiana Jones. Hayden, you just kind of rewatched the movies to get a sense, like most of them. Which one? Where does most of them end at?
I haven't gotten around to the Last Crusade yet, but not Last Crusade. Sorry, to the Crystal Skull yet. But I will. And I've seen I've seen Dial of Destiny. Obviously, came out last year recently enough that I felt like I remembered it well enough.
Yeah. Plus, I feel like this movie has much more of the vibe of the first three. So
I would say, it definitely slots in really well to kind of start the conversation about like the Indiana Jones vibe, because the original trilogy has this weird structure where Temple of Doom is actually like the first one chronologically, which I think a lot of people honestly forget. Yeah. And I feel like the Great
they're very subtle about how they tell you.
They are, right. I feel like the Great Circle feels like it's very much like a second act to Raiders and the Last Crusade. I think it ties them together really well. And there's a couple little moments of dialogue and Easter eggs where you kind of see things being set up thematically with like Indiana Jones's character and the relationships he has with characters in that movie that I really enjoyed so far.
Tyler, where does the game fall?
It's right between Raiders and Crusade.
Oh, okay.
So, and from what I've seen so far in the game, and none of us has finished it yet, but we're all far enough to talk about it. And this game, the story actually does a good job of trying to address some of the things that were just left unanswered in the original 3 films, like
Yep.
what happens with Indy and Marion after Raiders, why is she
Mhm.
not there in Last Crusade? And obviously she's
Right.
there again in, the final 2, but we don't really get a great explanation,
Yeah.
So
And this game gives really specific answers. I won't spoil them here
Yeah.
when they happen because I'm a little further ahead than you guys, but they are very like there are facts that are presented that kind of
Mhm.
fill in that gap in that relationship, which I thought really strengthens some of the spots where I think the movies feel a little disjointed.
And it does a really good job exploring the character of Indiana Jones himself. I think Indiana Jones has always been a flawed hero, right? And the flaws are on display.
Oh yeah.
in this game, in a good way though. Like that helps with character development. And I know there's some people that don't like that, and there's a whole segment out there that are just determined to hate this game, and that's cool. Like, do you, but we're gonna like it, and that's all right.
Yeah.
But it's also really good. Steven, like, what's your feel on the vibe so far?
Yeah, I think it matches the this like the movies pretty well in some ways. Like I definitely feel like I'm playing an indie game, including some of the soundtrack moments and like what you'd expect and some of the bits. Obviously it's like if you took the movie and extended it over like real time, where it's some of the stuff you're doing feels a little slow. And I am only like on level like probably level 1 proper. It would be what I would consider like the first
in the
real
Vatican, the
level.
first real open zone, right?
And the one thing I feel like that is missing is a little bit of the action from the movies. Like the combats doesn't quite match some of the feel of the movies, and I know it's kind of a hard to do, but I feel like that's the only place where the vibe kind of falls a little flat.
I feel like we're gonna get some set pieces though that
yeah
get that.
And I felt that way in the Vatican too, that I think it's much more of like the exploration, like Indy has that line in The Last Crusade where he's like 80% of archaeology is in the library, right? And I feel like the Vatican is that part of the game. You know what I mean? We're doing a lot of research, you're taking photographs of things, you're walking around the map, you're exploring. They're kind of teaching you the language of the puzzles, as well as like the literal language of the game, right? That they're kind of.
So that's not what I'm really
together.
like talking about. It's more like when you're doing the action bits inside of the game, it feels like when you watch the movie, there's just these cool action moments and sequences that are just fun, and very few games can match it. I mean, like Spider-Man kind of does, Batman to some extent. I'm trying to think, and like where the gameplay like just makes you feel bad. Yeah. Like I guess Insomniac's probably the best at it because Sunset Overdrive was one. This is like I love that bit, the gameplay, the slow parts. It's when it comes to the fights that I'm like, oh, it's where it pulls me out from the indie universe the most.
I wonder how much of that changes when you get more of the like books collected and the abilities built up, and you're able to just kind of do more things. Because early on, it feels a little
basic.
Clunky. I was going to say clunky. That's not the right word. I think basic is probably a much better word. But I think once you're able to do more as the character, that might go away a little bit. But I do see what you're saying.
But I think that's somewhat intentional, right? Because to me, I feel like the combat in this game is very clumsy and very improvisational, right? As far as all of the random weapons you find around and the fact that, you can, like throw a bottle at somebody, knock them out, pick up their gun, shoot their gun. When it runs out of ammo, switch it over and kind of do this thing and use it as a club. Like that all feels very Indiana Jones to me, because Indiana Jones is not a warrior, right? He's not
a trained operator.
He's not a tier 1 operator, right? He's very, very kind of skin of his teeth, always scraping by in these fights. So I think that clunkiness kind of works to its advantage. to the point of where it's funny because I've found a lot of people like are talking about how they don't really love the combat in this game. Whereas for me, like I'm getting such a kick out of it that like in the more open sections, anytime I see a Nazi that has a gun I want, I'm like, I'm picking a fight because I want to take that rifle for later in case I get to an area that has a lot of enemies. I feel like the main thing though we haven't talked about yet on the Indiana Jones vibe is Indiana Jones himself, right? Obviously, this is not Harrison Ford. This is Troy Baker. Not the first time we've had a different actor play Harrison Ford or play Indiana Jones, right? Because we've had the young Indiana Jones, but I feel like this is probably the highest profile portrayal of the character that's not by Harrison Ford. So how's that working for you guys? What do you think of
I think the voice is really well done.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm
with you.
Sometimes forget it's not.
Harrison Ford.
Yeah. I'm not,
Same.
but I'm also not one that is like looking. I'm sure if I was staring and trying to nitpick and putting comparisons of voice between the two, like I would be it would be noticeable, but I don't feel like doing that because like you're just making yourself miserable. I feel like he matches it well.
But that's why it's good though, Steven, because if it was bad, you wouldn't have to look.
Yeah.
You would just know. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And it becomes invisible, right? I think he's essentially doing probably like a really incredible Harrison Ford impression. But I do think it really does feel like Indiana Jones. And I honestly think that like the times that I do notice and do feel like, oh, this is Troy Baker, I think are just because we kind of have, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this who are really into games, right, have a trained ear to look for him because we've played so many games at this point. I mean, he's really prolific. We got an article going up on the site soon of some of his best performances, and I've forgotten how many incredible characters and how many incredible games he's been in.
There aren't many more people in the games industry that I think get taken for granted at this point. What he offers and brings.
I feel like it's really him and Nolan North are kind of in a league of their own where they can be rightfully iconic in their own right, but they can also totally disappear into these characters. And I feel like in this game, I never really feel like Troy Baker's star power is distracting from the character. I just feel like this is Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's spot on. I think the look of the character when we do pull back to third person, especially in those moments, the cutscenes, there are times where it's like, it doesn't look so much like Indiana Jones, but whatever. It's not enough to pull me out of it. But when it pulls back in the traversal moments, things like that, it looks just like the character. I mean, it's got the mannerisms down, it's got the way of the movement down, all of that. I'm bought in to all of that at this point. But I think, Hayden, you brought up combat earlier, so that transitions well in the gameplay. And let me ask this first. What's the coolest thing you've beaten up a fascist with so far?
Oh, easily the soap brush. I just find it so funny to do every time, and I will grab it every time I see it and use it every time. It's so fun.
Yeah, so
I had the inverse real quick. Sorry, something like that where it's because I didn't realize that the enemies could do that to you as well. And there was one where I was trying to sneak into somewhere in the Vatican, and I wasn't feeling stealth. I'd kind of tried and failed a couple of times, which is one of the things of gameplay I really like about this game. I don't think there's ever a moment where if you fail stealth, you get like a reset and you have to go back. Like you can always try and find a way to fight your way or run your way out of a situation.
Yep.
But the funniest thing I've seen like that is I picked a fight with a couple of the black shirts, the Italian fascists in Italy. And one of them picked up a nearby broom and just like whipped it at me like a javelin. And I was like so shocked because I've never played a game where the improvisational, like the random elements of the world go both ways. And I really like that.
And it's so key to the spirit of Indiana Jones because that's how the fights go a lot of the time, So I was going to say I did a video on just some tips for getting started. And one of the things I said in there is like everything you can pick up in this game is a weapon. Use it, basically. So yeah, the soap brush, spoon. I beat somebody up with an umbrella yesterday, like all that stuff. It's fun. And it just adds to just the having a good time factor, which I feel this game is really high in. So I'm a fan of that. Gameplay wise, what do you feel about the puzzles? There are a bunch of them. And they vary in difficulty. Some are really quick, and some take a little bit more time and thought. But how do you feel about them so far, Aiden?
I feel like they're usually fairly intuitive. Like I feel like they have kind of sense to them. And in the beginning of the game, especially, I was like, I don't want to, ruin the experience myself. And also, we were playing this early if there weren't really a lot of guides, right? So
yeah,
I was kind of trying to do things organically and figure them out. And I felt like whenever I found an answer to a puzzle, I wasn't ever mad at the game. I was like, well, I should have seen that or whatever, right? Or like the order. Like there was one thing where like I had to enter in a thing and it was like a date was like the answer to like one of like the keypads on like a enemy's loot thing, and I was like, why am I getting this wrong? And it's like, oh duh, I need to switch the month and the date because I'm in Europe right now, right? Like,
I wonder how many people
like
made that mistake.
Oh, dude, it's rough. I was like, why is this not working? I have the right numbers, and I'm like, oh, they're backwards. But I think there are some moments.
You were getting them backwards.
That's true. That's true. I think there are some moments, especially in the bigger temples, where I have had to look up some guides and kind of figure stuff out, or just spend some time toiling with things, which I think is okay, because I really do feel like the more complex, more sophisticated, harder puzzles I've actually found to be in the side stuff. And I think that's an appropriate place to offer that challenge, right? Because at that point, you're not gating the next cutscene. You're not messing with the pacing.
It's taking from Tomb Raider very nicely in that way. Because the same thing is true there in the games that are done really well. Steven, how about you? Have you had any moments yet where you're like, I'm an idiot for not getting that right away?
I guess there was a bookshelf puzzle, and it like when I looked in the thing, it said 1 out of 2 like documents collected. So I'm like, I think I'm missing it because I like know what I need to do, but I don't know what like how I'm supposed to figure out. And then I thought I had flipped the paper over, but I guess I had not. And then I went back and because I just happened to backtrack into it, and I'm like, let me see. And I looked something up, and I hate doing it because I love puzzles. And then I'm like, wait, so I had the document I needed, and I guess I just didn't flip it over, or I missed it, and I flipped it over. I'm like, oh, oops. The second document was the one you get inside of the secret compartment inside the bookshelf.
Interesting. That's cool.
So that was the only one I felt like dumb for. The other puzzles have been pretty easy, except for the one where I had to figure out like what it was talking about the year it was, but I didn't know what year it was in the game. I don't remember seeing it. So I was like guessing. I'm like, we're in World War II, so it's got to be the 1930s. So I just went through all the 1930s until it finally opened.
I think you're in 1937, isn't it?
It's definitely.
It is. I remember because the solution to that puzzle was 1936. I know exactly which one you're talking about.
And so that one was like, I just wish I knew what year it was. Like that's like I just didn't know in the game. And then there was one puzzle inside one of the like tombs that I realized was a puzzle. Had no idea how to solve it. Had no idea what I needed to solve it. It didn't even pop up in my like notebook to solve. Wow. So I was I didn't know if I didn't have enough, and I didn't look it up yet. So I'll backtrack into it. But no, that's been my favorite part of the game is the puzzles, and I find myself hoping there's a puzzle in the next area I go to every time because I don't care about anything else in the game. I just want the puzzles. It's like a mini escape room every time. Like I love
puzzles are great. But I'm going to sound really cliched here. My favorite part of the game is the whip. Like, come on. The whip is great. Close second is the sound effects for me. When you were talking about combat earlier, Steven, what doesn't pull me out of it is that the punches from an audio standpoint are perfect.
Yeah.
They are. They sound like movie sound effect punches.
Yep.
Which I appreciate, right? I think the whip is the same way. I've found myself a couple times just like in an environment, like I'll literally just like whip different things to see how it sounds.
That's another thing though. That whip would hurt like hell to get hit by, and it does no damage to enemies.
Yeah, but it's a video game. Like, come on. In Star Wars Jedi, you hit stormtroopers with a lightsaber 3 times, you know?
Right.
Like, and I mean, it's just one of those things that I have to put aside. But you're right. I mean, it does. It hurts like hell. It's how he got the scar, right? Beginning of Last Crusade.
Mhm. But I feel like it's more of a stun thing, right? And that's usually how I'll use it, is I'll hit someone with it to knock their weapon out of their hand and then pick it up and hit them with it. But you can knock someone out with the whip. I have tried. I've hit someone over and over again. It took me maybe 6 or 8 times to do, but it's possible.
I want to be able to take the weapon from somebody's hand and like just pull it to me and have it
with
in my
the
hands.
whip.
Because that's actually happened. That happened in Last Crusade.
Tyler, that is a book you can find late in the game.
I don't know, because the books I've found so far have more so been stat upgrades rather than whole new abilities,
stamina and power and stuff.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
And maybe it's just a thing that's locked, and maybe it gets unlocked later. I don't know how they went about the upgrades for sure. Should we talk about those the little books?
Yeah, I was gonna say in a second, but I feel now's a good time. Let's do that. Are you guys buying the guidebooks?
Yes.
No.
So they're expensive as hell, but they're worth it. So tip from our other video that I made: buy the damn things. It's 1,500 lira in the Vatican to get them all, but it's so worth it because they'll put on the map the locations of all of these things that get you the adventure points, the books, the stuff.
You don't want that, Steven? You want to just wander around?
No, this game is great to just explore and find naturally. There's moments where like I'll be walking and I'll hear like over here like oh, Father Antonio is leaving. It would be nice to have a picture of him. And I'm like, I have a camera, so I'm gonna go take a picture of him. And I did. And then I went back and I could turn it in for points. Like that's so nice to come across naturally, not like looked up. Like if you want to play that game that way, like totally fine.
Fair, right.
But I really think this game is best if you're the type of player like me who wants the puzzles and like it is the best organic puzzle exploration type game I've played in a long time. Where
I agree with that 100%.
Not too many markers. Like there's enough where I can it's not frustratingly annoying of like where to go next. But a lot of the side shit is like, okay, well, I'm gonna just test all these doors and see where I can go. And oh, there's something here, and I found a note, and I'm gonna read the note. And I'm like, oh, I see this looks weird. There's a puzzle here. Okay, let me try to figure this out. Where I'm not like if you want to buy totally cool. I don't fault you, but I really recommend not doing that if you
want to be more immersed, right?
Yeah.
I think getting the mystery guidebooks, those are helpful and don't detract from it because those
you get the adventure points.
And also they don't really tell you what they are. There's just like, oh, I heard murmurs that there's something going on over here, and those are really fun. And I think like the game does a really good job of rewarding you and encouraging you to explore, but not punishing you if you don't, right? I think you're able to take it at your own pace. And like I said, the Giza section, I really, that seems to be the biggest, most open map in this, right? You basically are dropped in and there's like you need to, there's someone who before you can progress in the story, she needs to trade like 4 artifacts to get you something else so that you can go to the next place, do the next thing. But the cool thing about that is that there are actually 10 of those within the world. So you don't need to get them all.
Well, that's the same in the Vatican.
Right. Yeah, I guess you're right. True.
There are 4 pictures you need to advance the story, but there's 10 in the world.
Right. Yeah, I guess maybe that's just the format they're going for. And I honestly
I think that's a really good choice.
I think it is too, because it rewards the exploration. And
Steven, did you ever get to the mission and Anthem? And who would have thought that game was going to get brought up in this episode? But,
my guess is no, but keep going.
It is the worst video game mission I've ever played.
Wow.
Ever. And it's not that close. You have to go and get all these things, and it's all collectibles, it's all fetch quests, and it takes hours and hours to do. And it's so stupid. And so the first thing when you were talking about in Giza, go like get all these things, I'm like, oh no, is it that? But then when you explained, I'm like, oh no, that's exactly what Anthem should have done.
Yeah,
But,
this feels to me, at least the one in the Vatican, like
The
you have
pictures,
to
yeah.
get enough evidence to like get at least able to start solving the puzzle.
Sure.
And that's why you need them. And I think they do a good job story-wise of like making it feel not gamified for collection.
I mean, that also sounds like how research is done, right? Like,
and that's exactly.
So
and
it's like,
those
what's
artifacts,
the connection between 3 or 4 things, and 3 or 4 pieces of evidence is good, like way to start.
Yeah, and those artifacts that I was finding in Giza, I found most of those like just naturally.
Yeah.
And there were a couple moments where I actually stumbled upon main quest stuff on accident, or I did a side quest that gave me stuff to do, that gave me an item I needed for a main quest, right? And the way that was kind of going is I was just naturally in that part of the world being drawn to things because that's just a really interesting part of the map, right? And there's like a really big, there's like Nazi headquarters you can go explore. So I'm like, I want to check that out because if they're guiding this many people, clearly there's something in there, right? And there's digging sites you can go to, and there's like the pyramids and the Sphinx statue. And so for me, what it would be is I would be like, I'm just naturally drawn to this because of what it looks and it's visually interesting. And obviously there has to be something there.
Yeah.
And then, like, or I've noticed like anytime like you're in the game and you see like a dark hallway or you see like a ladder anywhere that goes underground, like any little hole, any little cave, like it's always worth exploring. And I haven't really had a moment in the game yet where I've gone somewhere and it wasn't really worth doing, aside from like, I think you can argue the utility of some of the different artifacts, right? Like there's the ones that are, I don't remember what they're called. Like one of the main collectibles in the game, it's just called like Ancient Relics, I think, right? And it just kind of looks like a prehistoric AirPod. I haven't figured out what to do with those beyond just like you just get the adventure points for collecting.
I think
them.
that's what it is. It's the same thing for like when I delivered that picture. It's just adventure points. Taking pictures of cool things in the game, like is the adventure points. That's what I want. I don't want to talk about the books because we went away from it. Like, do you like that system of upgrades, like finding the books and using those adventure points to upgrade your stats?
I do.
I do to an extent, but I also think it gets weird in the gaminess of it, right? Where I kind of wish that books and adventure points were used for separate things or separate stats. I think because I think it feels weird to me to kind of gate. It's like, oh, I found this adventure book, but like I don't have enough invisible fake points to read this book. Right. Like I think it would have been much better if you give players the option. I think it would have been great to be like, hey, you can spend, this amount of adventure points to level this up, to level up the skill. Or if you find this book in the world, then that will help you out. Because it gets especially weird when it's something you also have to spend some sort of currency or collectible to do, right? Where there's like, because the medicine bottles you can take to like
so you have to buy the books
healer
with the medicine bottles and then also use adventure points to like unlock the skill you get.
And the thing that's annoying about that too is that like, and I guess this is going to kind of we'll go into my nitpicks for a bit because I feel like this is a Bethesda game through and through. There's a couple weird bugs and jank that I think do take away from the experience. I've had some
not as buggy as Starfield, but I'm with
not as buggy as Starfield, but I've had, well, I'm also playing on Series S, so it might be a little buggier. But I mean, I've had moments where Gina has straight up just like walked on water or walked on invisible like areas you're supposed to shimmy. She just doesn't. She just walks across them normally.
Is that a reveal? Like
I don't know. I've seen her phase through multiple cannons. Like,
I do
multidimensional being.
I do find it funny when like I unlocked the next like main story and she went down and they were talking, but I was like, I'm not ready to go down. I want to like turn this other quest in that I haven't done yet. I just found this quest naturally or this puzzle naturally, so I want to figure it out while I'm here. And then like I'm like, oh, it's the next area, but I have to go do this. But so they were talking across the map, like she should have paused at a certain point. It was just funny.
I think at that point, even like if you could give them like a radio to talk through and just make that dialogue crackly if it's far away.
The books are my biggest nitpick for the same reason. Like, if the medicine bottles quest, when you turn those medicine bottles in, you should get the skill. I get the ones where you find out in the wild, and I like the books because it's like Indy's an archaeologist. He's supposed to be reading and researching this is that. That's
why I like the books. Yeah.
I have a problem though because there's one to like make climbing quicker. Climbing is so obnoxiously slow; it makes backtracking and searching some areas absolutely abysmal to do, and I hate it. And and this is where I'm okay with gaming the game. There is a fine line between making it realistic and making it tedious. And Indy has the climbing is tedious. It's not fun. It's slow, and it's really annoying when you like fuck the whip up and you miss the jump because you didn't have enough.
I missed a jump in like the sewer.
Yes, and now you have to climb.
And now I have to go back and do all the climbing again, and I was annoyed because it took a minute. Yeah,
tedious as shit, and I hate it so much. And I hate that I feel like it's locked behind the books, and it pisses me off even more. Like, I'm fine with everything else. I'm fine with the underground fighting pit selling books that increase your fighting stats. That makes sense.
I haven't been to Fight Club yet. You got to tell me where on the map that is when we get out of here. Can you fight in the Fight Club?
Yes.
Oh, dude, let's go.
It was in the it was in the gameplay reveal. Somebody's not watching our videos.
That proved to me that I was not that good at fighting in this game. And so
Now,
if I don't have weapons, I have to not do that. But yeah, I hate the climbing so much. I hate that it's even like slow because of the books. And if you're playing on PC, as soon as that gets modded, I highly recommend. Because that's the only thing that makes this game like a little bit not fun to explore.
Yeah, and I had a weird moment with the books too, where for me, like I got a book in Giza. Like there's a doctor who's like, you find these medicine bottles around, and there's a doctor that you can give those to, and he will be like, I'll give you. Like he's got these health books you can get, right? You can trade them. So instead of using money, it's like however much, like the different tiers cost different amounts and so on, right? So for some reason, I don't know what was causing this, if it was me dying, if it was me quick resuming or what, but for some reason, like even I would upgrade the book, and for some reason later in the session or maybe in the next session when I would, close again and restart again, like it hadn't saved that I had done that I had upgraded my health. So it would refund me the points back, but I'm not very perceptive. I'm not noticing the slight tick in the health bar being down to the point of where like it was literally at one point like 3 hours of gameplay after I had initially acquired the book, like I didn't have that health thing anymore. And I'm just trying to figure out like what the hell is going on.
Speaking of quitting and resuming, I love that the menu is like where you leave off. It's so smart, and like it's
really cool.
From
the quality of life stuff in this game is fantastic. I think.
But the thing is, that can break really easily too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That menu thing. Have you guys had any experiences where the menu's got some weird shit going on?
I haven't. Luckily.
I feel like it was close one time, but it didn't.
I clipped it. I'll send to you guys if you want to throw it up on screen, Tyler, or just want to take a laugh at it. But I had one where Gina was walking in place into a wall infinitely in my main menu.
Fun.
I feel like all of the bugs and glitches I've had have been with her. Like every time something, not game breaking, but like immersion breaking happens, it's always her AI just goofing up. And I think that's just for some reason every Bethesda game does that. But I think I feel it here more because like most in Bethesda's bigger RPGs like Starfield, right, or a Fallout, like you potentially have several different companions you're cycling throughout the game. Whereas in this game, like Gina is very much like with you more often than not.
Most of the time,
in the story stuff, especially like when you have big set pieces, scripted moments, linear levels, like she's there. And so I wish there was a little bit more polish on her AI in particular, because I just feel like it breaks the game so often, especially because all of the cutscenes are rendered in game, which is really cool and immersive. And I think like
it feels like a movie.
It does, and I think that's one of the ways you see that this next gen hardware is being leveraged for storytelling,
Mhm.
because this game never stops. Like from the moment you load up to like when you close the app, like a cutscene is always rendered in game pretty much, right? And you kind of seamlessly transition in and out of those to the point. And there's a lot of tech stuff in this game that I've either not seen in a game before, or I've not seen all the systems, right? Like there's that Himalayas part that they showed off in the, I think it was like an E3 or Summer Games Fest demo, one of the big showcases. Like when you're in that, the snow is like several feet up to, like it's up to your waist.
Yep.
And so as you walk through it, if you turn around, like the snow is missing from that area where you displaced it. And like some of that tech stuff and some of that attention to detail is really impressive, but it's at odds with, it's like, why are we putting so much into the snow systems, but we're not making sure that like the Dotaragonist of the game works properly and functions? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I think Bethesda games, I mean, are obviously known for being buggy at this point, to the point where sometimes I think they get a pass on it, maybe more than they should. But that said, while this game is not bug free, I've noticed them too. I do feel like it's better than some of their other recent efforts. So
for sure. And I also do feel like Bethesda gets maybe an unfair pass, but I do think that like PlayStation's equivalent games, right? You're always paying $70 for those. Whereas this is launching day and date on Game Pass, right? So
I do think
I don't
it's
lower
fair
the
to
bar
point
for that,
out
though.
that this is not a Bethesda game. This is a Machine Games
Yeah, it's
game
Machine Games. It's
published by Bethesda,
Yeah.
which I think is a big difference. I feel
right,
like
but
this has been
same engine, right? I would imagine
this has been less buggy than like Fallout or Starfield for sure. I actually haven't noticed too many bugs. I feel like most of the bugs come with the menu / like quick resume, which is where a lot of games kind of have problems sometimes.
Yeah.
So I don't fault that necessarily.
That's fair.
Because I feel like everything else has been okay, minus the whole like walking away. But that was, I mean, I think she did end up stopping the conversation at one point until I caught back up. But it was just funny when I walked away, and you just keep hearing it.
So real quick before we move on to the last couple things, I just want to do a little show and tell for some of the stuff from the like collector's edition. So this is the steelbook that you get.
Very nice.
Pretty nice. And it's like thick.
It honestly looks like one of the books you pick up in the game too.
It does, yeah.
That energy to it, which I love.
I love when collector's editions of games do this, but they put the code for the game on like an artifact.
That's cool.
Inside, so it's on the back.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Starfield did the same thing, but they put it on like one of the credits, in-game credits.
Yeah. I can't believe you bought the Starfield Ultimate Edition. I always forgot you do that.
Wow, Starfield shaming me. Right
Not Starfield shaming. It was just funny because like you weren't even a Bethesda guy before Starfield.
Yeah,
like,
but I was really excited for that
big
game,
on that.
and then you get a little magnetic little plane. See?
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
What's that supposed to? What is it? Do you tell which kind of plane that is? Like specifically,
is
it from like a
kind of plane that's in the
piece?
game. I don't know.
Oh, you know what? I think it's when they do the travel montage with the red line. Okay, that's fun. That's cute.
And it's magnetic, so it sticks to our little thing here.
That's fun.
Connects and all that. So kind of cool. I'll show off the globe on the trivia video tomorrow. But world, we've touched on a lot of the world already, but I think it feels like an Indiana Jones movie. It feels like you're playing another like installment in this franchise. And the world is such a huge part of that for me. So I really well done on that. When we review movies, we have a category called look, sound, and feel, and I think they nailed it here with that.
I agree. Yeah, and it's interesting because it's a period of history that you don't really see often. Because I mean, we've all played probably dozens of World War II games in our lives at this point. But it's interesting that like this is kind of pre-war, right? Where you're getting there's like the fascist presence is certainly there, but there's like Hitler hasn't invaded Poland yet, right? It's kind of the rise of that, and I think they do a really interesting job of showcasing that in the world, because like you can feel the presence of the fascists, both how many of them there are in the world, but also just the way that they have a physical presence in the world with like their tents and their encampments and their monuments and all their other random shit they erect, right? And I think it does a really good job of like giving you the feel of the rise of fascism and how like the presence of these factions really ruins the beauty of these historic places.
Agree. So let's talk the opening sequence. I fell in love with this
to
game.
follow.
Yeah, spoilers ahead,
Light
everybody.
Spoilers. If you haven't seen it,
spoilers. And by the way, a lot of it is on the video clip that I have in loop here, so you've already seen it if you've been watching this stuff. Anyway, I fell in love with this game the moment I hit play. And I could see what the scene was with him standing, hands on the hips, looking up at the, from his back, from behind him. I knew we were getting Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's the first shot of that movie. And then you see as you're walking through, and the dart on the tree and some of the other stuff, right? I'm like, they're going to do shot for shot. And I remember they kept teasing us, showing the Chachapoya's temple and shots from it and the boulder and all that. And I was like, I wonder if this is like a special temple that you have to find. That's like a,
Right. We didn't know if it was a flashback or if it's something you revisit within the story. We really had no idea.
But they use this to kind of teach you the mechanics. And to get you immersed in the game. And what a beautiful choice. It's perfect. It really is. Because now anybody that's a fan is just sucked in. And I was.
It's really good fan service, right? I think they do a really good loving job of crafting that. And I think it makes a little bit of sense in the narrative as well, because, he kind of wakes up from that dream he's having of that. And he's imagining what would happen if that moment failed, and it sets up a really interesting dynamic in this game, because I feel like this game really explores the fact that like Indiana Jones is almost addicted to adventure. Like I would say it's a compulsion for him, right? Like no matter how many times he puts people in harm's way, no matter how many times they double down in this game, but like this is costing him relationships.
It's his escape. It's his like
they have that throwaway line where they talk about like he's leaving during midterms. So he might get fired from Marshall College. And so it's just like, it's interesting to me how that kind of sets up that like there are potentially serious consequences for him doing this.
Steven, how'd you like the opening?
Yeah, it was definitely cool. I thought it was a good way to get I thought the tutorial was really well done in this. Both this into the like exploration bit inside Marshall College that sets the start of the story, and then the first not real open mission.
Like where we were outside the Vatican trying to get in.
Or what? Yeah, that where you're. Yeah. And also, I didn't know I was sneaking in, so I just ran up, and then there was like a bad guy, and he like started fighting me, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to be.
Oh, the like big guy.
No, just at the very no. This was
the very, very, very beginning of it.
Not the like opening cutscene, but when it's dark and you're going through the stone fortress or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah,
I
thought it was really well done. Like the opening of the game was really well done.
I had a very Indiana Jones moment in that section talking about on the bridge, because they present you like there's a point where you're on a really narrow bridge with like a really big guy, like just a larger kind of brute boss, and they're like, do this to parry, do this to dodge, whatever. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm not really in the mood for this. And so I pulled out the revolver and I one-hit headshotted him. And it worked. And it worked, nice. Tyler. They just straight up let you do it, and then they never give you that prompt again. Nice. They're like, all right, this is how you want to play. You go for it.
Love it. Like, and that's the best part. You can kind of make it up as you go, which is sort of Indiana Jones's, way. It's his MO. You can get through different challenges, all sorts of different ways. I, as you can imagine, as a huge Indiana Jones nerd, in that opening sequence, I was like, get to the river, get to the river. I want to use the whip, and we got there, and it was so cool. Just that entire sequence where you got to pour a little dirt out of the bag, before like replacing the idol with the dirt and all that. Like, I don't know, just all of it was fun. But really, really well done. So the last thing I want to cover here before we get out of here is, how do you feel this? Because we're going to call this an Xbox exclusive for now, because it is for the next like couple months. Where do you feel this fits in with the pantheon of Xbox exclusives over the last 10 years or so?
It's the best game since ever. Like, not ever, but since
one of their best first
probably
parties.
Since the 360, like since the Xbox One was released. I can't think of too much.
I think it's their best exclusive since Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah, I would say so. Maybe
that's 10 years.
4.
Yeah,
10 years. And
not
and
counting Forza, because that's like Forza's up there, but like Forza's it doesn't count.
A different genre. Like, I just don't. And same thing with Flight Simulator. Like, cool,
yeah, they're not.
But
those are never winning Game of the Year, and that's what people are talking about when they want exclusives. They want Game of the Year contenders, and I don't know. It depends what next year looks like for this to be on there, but I think it's definitely in the running so far. There's some issues, but I like it.
This is the Nathan Drake game Xbox has never had.
Yeah, and is needed for a long time.
So I don't know. Hayden, where are you at? Like, you're probably more of a PlayStation person than Xbox over time.
Yeah, usually, right. And I play most of my third-party stuff there, but I feel like with this quarter, right, this fall into holiday season, like, I feel like the promise of Xbox Game Pass has finally been delivered, right? And it's incredible to me to be in this ecosystem where for $20 a month with this membership, I'm playing this game and loving it. I'm playing Call of Duty, obviously, and loving it. So I hope that they can continue to deliver games of this quality. And honestly, I think it would be great if Indiana Jones became a pillar franchise for Xbox, right? Like PlayStation has the Spider-Man games. I think that'd be great. I would really love to. I haven't finished the game yet, obviously, but I think even after I do, I'll be itching to return to this world. And especially with the little flashback we got of Raiders at the beginning, like, I'm curious to see, like, small part of me almost wants like a movie tie-in from this studio of that original trilogy, because I think this movie or this game slots itself really well with the original trilogy, and I don't think it's going to leave a ton of room either after it, right? I think
there's a lot of room. I want them to go. Crusade, though.
That's right, and that's what I'm saying is I would want them to move away from the timeline of the main trilogy. I think maybe because we've got. I mean, okay, now that I think about it, like, fingers crossed, knock on wood, perfect world, I would love to see them do a game set in the 40s where
because you've got the opening sequence of Dial of Destiny is in what, 44 or 45, one or the other.
Yeah. Yep.
I think it's 44. But that gives you, though, 6 years to play with between Crusade and Dial of Destiny. Opening. So there's a lot of room there to do some things. And the novels have covered that, but let's be honest, like, aside from me, like 4 people have read all of those. So it's there's just a lot of space to play with that time period. And I think there's a lot of things you can do. Indiana Jones is still at his like peak powers at that point. So last thing I just want to hit on, I just kind of want to get your thoughts on it, but it might be more just venting by me. There's a lot of people out there like really intent on dunking on this game and like just I've seen people like pull numbers of like concurrent players from like last Friday and be like, numbers are terrible. It's awful. I'm like, well, yeah, because this is everybody who's paid $100.
Hour one of early access, right?
Well, plus it's early access. It's all the people. I mean, when you have the option to spend $100 or wait until Tuesday and get it as part of Game Pass, gee, I wonder what most people that aren't stupid like me will do. And yeah, I mean, come on. But it all goes back. Do you remember the Dev Diary video we got way back at
Yes.
Okay.
And people were pissed at the one person who had the Bethesda logo that had the pride flag colors embedded in it. Yeah.
And that person said they were making this game for a modern audience, and that's become the rallying cry for all these people, saying modern audience is code for what in their mind what they call woke, right? And it's just so disappointing to see people like celebrating. It's not even poorly performing, but their perception that it is.
Yeah.
Like celebrating that. Like,
well, and the thing is, I don't even think this game really would fall under the definition of quote unquote woke, right?
I don't either.
Like, at least not in a way that's any different from the normal movies. I think like there is one character who like has a line about like, I am a woman and I have a crush on a woman, and you're like, okay, cool. That's kind of it, right? And I think like Indiana Jones has always been a franchise that's had really strong, really likable, really compelling, really capable women in positions directly next to Indiana Jones, right? Working right alongside him. Every single one of those movies pretty much has.
And outside of Temple of Doom, they've all been characters who are perfectly like strong, capable characters that can definitely take care of things on their own without his help. Willie Scott was a little bit more of the,
damsel in distress type.
But the others, no. And I don't know. I have an issue with it. It's nothing new for me to say, but I just feel that y'all are looking for shit to be pissed about. And remember, this happened the moment we saw the female companion on screen. This started, and I don't know if you've seen Raiders or Temple or Crusade or Crystal Skull or Dial of Destiny, but there are times in each of those movies where there's a female companion. By times, I mean most of each one. Like, I don't know what to say.
I almost think this
just enjoy the damn game.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing to pick issue with because I almost feel like this game would be lesser and would feel less like Indiana Jones if it didn't have the presence of a character like Gina. And I honestly think Gina's one of the stronger companions in the franchise.
This is meant to feel like a movie. And that's part of every Indiana Jones movie. Every one. So I don't know. Steven's like notably quiet.
It's just, I mean, these people are dumb and they're not worth talking about.
They are
good, and it's not woke,
dumb.
and you're just an idiot. I mean, what's next? You're gonna say it's woke because it's saying fascists and Nazis are bad? I mean, get out of here. Go away. No one wants you.
If you don't like the game, that's cool. Like, I'm sure it's not going to be for everybody, and that's all right. But when you're actively trying to get other people to not even try it.
And if you feel called out about a game where a multinational, like bi-gender group of people goes out and about in the world to try and stop Nazis from doing bad, like, look within yourself and please do not register to vote.
Yeah, instead of hopping in front of the monitor, hop in front of a freaking mirror for a minute, if that's your issue. I don't know what else to say. Like, it's just, I don't even want to say it's like sick or whatever. It's just silly and absurd. And yeah, whatever. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of hit on that too, because I know there's going to be something at some point where somebody's like, is the game woke? Okay. Go. I don't even remember which thing we did a video on, Hayden, where somebody asked that question and regretted it? Or Steven, that was you and me with the Batman video.
Oh yeah, right. With the with the book.
I need to look at the Steam curator page for this because there is a like anti-woke something or other there, and some of the stuff they say is really funny. Like what games to avoid. And I want to know because I'm sure it's on there.
Oh,
I miss games weren't political like BioShock and Fallout.
I know.
Man.
Okay. Or I wish shows weren't political like Star Trek was, you know. Come on. Anyway, that's enough from us. We were going to do a quick like first impressions, and here we've basically, you know, reviewed the whole damn game. But bottom line, guys, I think we're all saying
it's great.
Yeah. Play this. Yeah.
It's a fun time. If you have even a remote passive interest in Indiana Jones, if you're coming into it like I was, where you remember the movies, watching them as a kid, you've got some fond memories, but they haven't really been part of your life since then. Like, let this be the moment that gets you back in. It's worth it. Also, I think it's a really good point of re-entry.
I feel a little bad because I feel Hayden might just be bullied by my sheer enthusiasm for this franchise into playing it. So there's that too. But like our team has no choice but to cover this game. So that's just like the one thing that, you know, we're not going to have debates on. So, okay. With that, go play this game. It's fun.
Hell yeah.
So, all right, leave a comment. Let us know what you think of the game if you're having a good time with it. If you haven't yet, it's on Game Pass by the time you see this. Mm-hmm. So give it a download and give it a go. Let us know what you think. And
you can play it on an Amazon Fire Stick, guys. No excuses.
Dude, I'm gonna fire up my new ROG. Give this thing a go.
Hell yeah, brother!
So I can do Game Pass games on it. So we're gonna do that. And I feel like single player games, perfect for that type of thing. So
for sure.
Yep. All right. Thanks everybody. Watch our other Indiana Jones videos too. We'd really appreciate it. Like this video, subscribe, all that good stuff, and talk to you soon. Bye.
Take care. Bye.